All right, so what do you do when one part of you is loving and looking forward to the idea of something, and another part of you is feeling fear or hesitation? So this is something that I felt before in relationships, where it's like certain parts of my body at certain times really warm to the idea or the thought or the environment that I'm in. Like, what could the future be like? Oh, this feels really good. I really like this. And then other parts, once I leave, are like, oh, I don't know, maybe you should think about that. I don't know if this is so good. And you have this thing where, like, when you're with someone, you feel one thing. When you're not with them, you feel another thing. And this is really fascinating. This is really fascinating because we have two senses of self, depending on the context. You have your solo self and you have your relationship self. And one of them is feeling warm towards the relationship and the other one is not feeling warm towards the relationship. So first thing is, you have to accept that this is a valid experience. Like, this is obviously a natural human experience because you're having it and it does occur. And so don't judge it. Don't see it as crazy or like fucked up, or it just is. You can have various experiences in various contexts, and you can have this process of figuring that out. That's okay. That's normal. There's nothing dysfunctional about that. It's not a red flag. The next thing is, before you look to kind of make a big decision or change something in the external world, look to give yourself the time and space and the intentional, loving self-care type of time and space to sit with and explore what could be going on there. So a lot of people will say, oh, trust your gut, right? Other people say, be logical. And there's all these different ways to interpret the signals of the body and whether or not we should trust them. And, do we lean into our intuition? Then other people say, well, intuition is just based on past experience. So if you've only had one type of experience, then you're going to expect more of that. And you'll overlay that onto the present, which could be different, could be new. So all of this is true, right? We have these different aspects of our body and our being, which send us different types of information and are constantly kind of informing us as to how to function within the world. And the first thing to recognize is that that is a conversation. Okay, this is a conversation between various factors of experience. It's not something where you have to pick one and force the other pieces of information into the dark and somehow override anything. If you begin with the idea that this is an unresolvable conflict within yourself, then you're unlikely to resolve it. But if you just think, okay, this is resolvable, like this is something that I can at least get closer to understanding and feel better about and explore, that then gives you the kind of space and the permission to be like, okay, it's all good. It's not the end of the world. And it kind of helps you to come a little bit out of that fearful state where you think you have to make a decision right now or else. So exploring the relationship between the parts is not about finding the right answer. It's about a continuous process of reintegration, remembering, bringing the parts together as a harmonious whole. And that is something which happens over time. We're never completely whole because there's always parts of us exploring new things which don't look like anything we've experienced before. So thank goodness, first of all, thank goodness that there is some degree of friction happening internally, because if there wasn't, that would mean that you were dead. The fact there is some friction likely means that you are heading in the direction of growth, expansion, learning, and a little bit of a sanding away of dead skin type thing. And you just need to make sure that as you go through that, the friction isn't so much that it rips your skin off, okay? You got some calluses on your hands, a little bit of sanding, a little bit of that is okay. So if you need to, you then just need to let others know that you're going through a little bit of a process where you're enjoying the connection, you're feeling warm towards more. If that's true, you're feeling open towards more, you're open to exploring and engaging in different ways. And that you're also feeling into some things that are new, that you don't quite know how to place, because this new experience brings with it new challenges, new internal questions, new layers of perhaps breaking through past experience. And that's not something that can be rushed, but it is something that you have faith in. So if you're sharing, this is feeling pretty good. I've got some stuff that I'm feeling through as well. And I need a little bit of space to do that. And I trust that I'll figure that out. And in the meantime, this is awesome. That's a good way to kind of give yourself the extra bandwidth to do that exploration. If you're like, oh, I got stuff that's coming up, it's super intense, I just don't know what the fuck is going on, feeling all these strong feelings, big feelings, that can be a really valid experience, and I've felt that before. The truth is that if you're completely honest in sharing that while you're feeling super chaotic, then that can also be a little bit unsettling for the people around you. And where we want to be honest, absolutely, there is always a sort of practicality thing. And this isn't just manipulation. If you were intentionally being dishonest and you were trying to control someone's reaction over and over again, it can border on manipulation. But if you're just also like, yeah, whatever I am right now, here's what I am, blah, 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 fuck it, that does have an effect on people, no matter how emotionally resilient they are. Okay, no matter how emotionally healthy people are, there is always a limit to our capacity to process things. So if you want to prioritize the connection and give the connection or the relationship time to expand, then you do need to create sometimes a little bit of separation between the experiences that you're going to share and create together and the experiences that maybe you don't know how to share without causing harm just yet. And this is the human condition. It's not a fucking clear-cut process. As much as we would like to have these hard and fast rules about what's right and what's not, it's open for debate. And the whole theme here is that all of these parts within you are just like the parts outside of you. The internal relationships and the external relationships are very similar. And so being open, being curious, being warm, and also being open to being wrong, being open to learning new information, being open to making some mistakes and then figuring them out, that's probably the healthiest place to relate to yourself from and to others. So, yes. Preferably you give yourself time and space to do this. Preferably you ask for that, and preferably you do that in the most compassionate way you know how. A kind way, which is honest and truthful, and you just really need to feel into that. You just need to feel into that. There's no way that anyone can come in and give you that internal relating skill to give you the right answer. Unfortunately, it's just part of life. But that's where your growth will come from. So in any process, there's this managing of the external, and then there's managing of the internal. Managing of the external, managing of the internal. So you can make small external decisions that are going to help you, food prep, whatever it is, like small things. And then you can make small internal adjustments, right? And you can work with your mind and your psyche, and you can explore that, and you can kind of cycle back and work a little bit with the body, supporting your physiology. You can work with self-inquiry, and then you can work in inquiry into how others around you are affected by this dynamic or how they're feeling. And there needs to be both. It's not all about you fixing everything within yourself, or, you can't address everything at the layer of the mind, or everything at the layer of the body, or everything at the layer of the external. There needs to be an interplay. That is what keeps relationships in flow. And if you take a better and worse approach, like what's going to make this situation slightly better rather than slightly worse, that tends to be most helpful, rather than like an all or nothing, fix it or it's fucked approach. Again, fear is like, I have to make a decision, and love or openness is like, maybe there's space to be surprised, and that will be okay, even if it doesn't go the way I expected. If you must make a decision, trust your gut. Go with your gut. People talk about the gut being the center of fear. Go with like, feel into your whole body, but do trust your gut, because even the fearful part of you, if you trust the fearful part of you is afraid, and you say, okay, I'm not going to betray myself, you then settle that part, and then you can go and lean into the heart and mind, and you can kind of like explore. There's a bit more time. But you can't just bypass the most fearful part of you and try to go straight to the heart and mind, because it's going to come back with a vengeance. Trust your gut and remain more whole, so that you then have the capacity to redirect and reflect later, rather than trying to just act like you shouldn't be afraid and act like it doesn't exist. If you must do something, choose what feels most whole for you. I hope that's helpful. There's obviously a lot of space for individual experience in here, and the way you implement what I'm telling you is another art into itself. But yeah, I just wanted to post something today, and I've been thinking about this stuff, and it's been relevant in my life, and maybe it's relevant in yours. So, yep, much love.